Let not your heart be troubled. You are listening to the Sean Hannity Radio Show podcast. Hey, like most of you, I had trouble sleeping, but I sleep better than ever. And you know what? It's all because of a pillow. Mike Lindell's My Pillow has changed my life for the better, and it works. What makes My Pillow so different is their patented adjustable fill. Now, you can adjust the patented fill to your exact individual comfort need and get the support you absolutely must have. And that means you fall asleep faster, you stay asleep longer. It just works. Now, millions of people have already discovered that My Pillow works for them, and now it's time for you to experience My Pillow for yourself. Just go to MyPillow.com. Use the promo code Sean, and when you do, Mike Lindell will give you his best offer ever. Buy one My Pillow, get another one absolutely free. Now, My Pillow is made in the USA, has a 10-year warranty, and a 60-day unconditional money-back guarantee, so you have nothing to lose. So get started and get the sleep you crave and deserve. MyPillow.com, promo code Hannity, and get Mike Lindell's special 2-for-1 offer. That's MyPillow.com, promo code Sean. All right, glad you're with us. Happy shutdown, Schumer Shutdown Friday. It is the Sean Hannity Show, 800-941-SEAN, toll-free telephone number. You want to be a part of this extravaganza. So glad you could be with us. Look, I've got so much on our plate today, not the least of which is I am going to give out a phone number throughout the program today. Now, we heard all about this memo, and I'm going to go through it in more detail. And the memo was finally seen by members of Congress yesterday. They are not themselves allowed to talk about it. I'll explain the little dribs and drabs and things that I am slowly putting together about how bad it is. Let's just say everything that we have been talking about and telling you about forever. It's almost been a complete year since we first reported on this program. Sarah Carter, John Solomon, and we have been unpeeling the layers of an onion. Some of you have been impatient with me. Mike Myers, for one, sends me an email. When is it going to come out? All of it. I'm like, we're getting there. And I understand your impatience. I am naturally impatient. Well, stop shaking your heads in there. It's not that bad. Thank you very much. What's with the, confirmation? Oh, you're impatient. I am not. I'm nice to everybody in there. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, Lisa really likes you. I think she thinks, maybe she might be your favorite.
One little itsy-bitsy mistake, for crying out loud. I got to get over it. But you shouldn't play hooky, and then I wouldn't have come up as an issue.
Well, Lisa was here, so I left you in good hands.
Oh, my gosh. No, she wasn't. But listen, we don't mind. You're allowed. You got to take care of your son. Well, that's important to us. Liam is a part of our family. But so this is now, we now can release this to the public. All that needs to happen is for the House Intelligence Committee to go into session, and then they have a vote on it. And then it will be sent to the White House. All the White House has to do, and I am certain they would do it, is check off that it's okay to allow the American people to see what it is that these congressmen are so aghast at. As one person said, this makes Watergate look like nursery school. Now, Watergate's a two-bit break-in, right? It's about, they break into a political opposition. No, this is about using government, using the powerful tools of intelligence. This is about lying to courts. This is about opposition parties conniving and scheming and planning and plotting on how they can spy on a opponent, an opposition party in a presidential election year. And then it's after a presidential election year and about an insurance policy they put together. We could then have a vote in the House and it would be released tonight, today, to you, the American people. Now, release the memo has been trending as I saw it earlier today, and I just tweeted it out on Twitter. I want to see the memo. We have a right to see the memo. And I am also told today that this memo is only 30% maybe of what is about to come out. We are talking about widespread FISA warrant abuse, and we're talking about not rank and file FBI people, not rank and file intelligence people, but we're talking about people at the highest level in these departments corruptly thinking that they know better than you as to who should be the American president. And it shocks the conscience what has gone on here. The other thing this will expose to everybody is just how corrupt the mainstream liberal left-wing media in this country is, just how wrong they have been. They're lying to you right now about what's going to happen. They're trying to scare the crap out of, grandma and grandpa when it's not true about what a government shutdown really means. I'll go over that in detail. So if you want to see the memo and you want the memo release the memo, you can call Congress now at 202-224-3121. You can ask for the Speaker's office. You can ask for your congressman, your congresswoman's office, and say, release the memo. Please do it now. We have a right to see it. Because I'm hearing that, well, the leadership is they're too busy and they got government shut down. Release the memo. It's not that difficult. It's not that hard. Won't take that long. It's not that much effort. And it looks like if you are going to be stuck in Washington over the weekend, sticking around in D.C., if you're going to be doing that, then you might as well work for the people anyway. All right, I'll get back to this in a second. 202-224-3121. If you're on Twitter, you might want to tweet out, release the memo. I put it up on my account out at Sean Hannity. No, we're not accepting direct messages. Everyone's getting hacked. It's just like we've been hacked already. How many times have we been hacked, Linda? Do we know?
No, we've never been hacked because we have an amazing cybersecurity force. So we had...
Well, you had the one hacking. Yeah. That was only one? I thought we got hacked twice.
Maybe twice.
So then why did you tell me that we haven't been? You mean we haven't been since since you took it over and started being serious?
I blame Lisa for all of these mistakes.
Who's Lisa? I don't know.
I fired her yesterday.
Oh, she used to work on the show. How long did she work here for?
Yeah, I fired her. She was ridiculous.
How long did she work here for?
Too long.
Oh, my. So Linda takes off 2 days this week, and I'm like, oh, where's Lisa? Linda. And she's like, did your phone started?
My phone, my text, everyone just started texting and tweeting. And
are you really upset about it? You shouldn't be.
No, not at all. I mean, I fired her, so it's all done now.
All right, it's all handled. So
I'm outraged for her.
I think you're on Lisa's hate list.
Oh, do you have a hate list, Linda?
No, I don't have one, but I heard Lisa did. That's why I fired her.
Yeah. Oh, so
cybersecurity fault.
She's gone, as long as she's gone and dead. That's all I want to know. All right, let me get this information out. All right, so if you tune into any channel today, it's 8 hours, 47 seconds, and 1 second. 47 minutes, 1 second. And it's a ticking, talking down all night. And it's meaningless. They are trying to whip people's minds into a frenzy. And they're doing it on purpose. They know, let me play for you an exchange with, whole CNN fake news and Jim Acosta, their White House correspondent, their chief White House correspondent. Listen to how dumb he is. And this has been the narrative. Well, you guys control the government. You have the majority in the House and the Senate, and you have the presidency. Well, we need cloture. You need 60 votes in the Senate to get the bill to be voted on. And what's happening is that's why it's the Schumer shutdown. Now, it's a clean CR, which Democrats always say that they want. It included the CHIP program, which Democrats say that they want. And I am arguing that the Democrats want the shutdown. They want to go out and blame Trump, blame the Republicans, say they're not protecting the kids of DACA. Well, that doesn't come up till the end of March. So what they're really doing is a lie. It's all part of a political scheme, just like they don't want DACA done because they want to run on DACA. And I'll take that debate any day. If it's going to be border security, securing the borders and securing the American people first, I think they get priority over anybody else because they're our citizens, we the people. They're already we the people. Anyway, here is the most unbelievable, incredibly ignorant, dumb exchange with whole network, CNN, fake news, Jim Acosta.
How can it be the Schumer shutdown when Republicans control the White House, the House, and the Senate?
Come on, you know the answer to that as well as anybody. I mean, I have to laugh when people say that, oh, we control the House and the Senate and the White House. Why can't you get this done? You know as well as anybody that it takes 60 votes in the Senate to pass an appropriations bill, right? You know that.
I know that.
Okay, so when you only have 51 votes in the Senate, then you have to have Democrat support in order to keep the government to fund the government. So that's the answer to his question.
The president asked Congress to come up with a solution for the Dreamers. Congress was in the room. Members of Congress were in the room with the president last week. It seemed to be a fairly productive meeting. And then the whole process got blown up.
When Republicans tried...
If I may, it seems that the whole process was blown up by the president's comments.
When Republicans tried to add a discussion about Obamacare to the funding process in 2013, we are accused by Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer of inserting a non-fiscal, a non-financial issue into the spending process in order to shut the government down. How is that not exactly what is happening today? There is no reason that you have to deal with DACA this week. There's no reason you have to deal with DACA before the end of February, the middle of February. DACA doesn't expire till March 5th. This is purely an attempt by the Senate Democrats, led by Mr. Schumer, it's why we call it the Schumer shutdown, in order to try and get a shutdown that they think this president gets blamed for.
They want to blame the president. They don't want DACA either. And it's not an imperative to get the DACA deal done now. And it was the president that opened the door to DACA in the first place. And the Democrats just looking for any excuse because they have deemed it politically expedient not to do a DACA deal. Let me just give you some truth and some facts, because I don't think anybody else in the media is going to do it. You never have a real government shutdown. In other words, Social Security checks are going to go out. There's a lot of leeway in terms of what it means. What are essential services? What is a constitutional duty? You know, for example, the president and vice president, they're not getting shut out. The government's not going to shut down. Food stamp checks will go out at least till the end of February. Social Security checks will absolutely go out. The military will be working. ICE agents will be working. The borders will be secure. Wall repairs will continue. The parks will be open. Maybe not every single service that they have at the park, but the parks are going to be open. America's cyber team, the FBI is going to be open. The TSA will be open. The post office will be open. Fannie and Freddie are going to be open. I mean, the VA hospitals will be open. Everything, firemen are going to be funded. Food stamps continue. You know, I mean, this is not a shutdown. There's no such thing. And if you maybe work for the EPA in a non-essential role, you might get a free furlough, meaning a vacation. Longest we ever had a shutdown lasted 21 days anyway. It's going to end quickly, one way or the other. It's going to end. And I also think that the Democrats, they're not exactly calculating or factoring in that this is a different president. Every day, I can imagine Donald Trump's Twitter feed is going to remind the country about the Schumer shutdown, about the things that aren't being funded, because he is pretty much trying to hold the entire process hostage. He doesn't want this to happen. And so Democrats, they're going to get to midnight tonight. Government's going to shut down. It's not even going to. As a matter, let me put it this way. Your life will go on as normal. It will not be the end of the world. And I will bet that 99.8% of you are not going to be impacted at all. So is it anything to get worked up over? No. Does it deserve a countdown clock? No. Is it the president's fault? No. Is it the Democrats' desire? Yes. And I don't care that Schumer met with the president today. He came out. We had some discussions. We still have a lot of differences. So what the Democrats are using leverage, they think they have that they don't have. And if this is what they think is going to work, and if they think not getting DACA done as part of building the wall, ending chain migration, merit-based immigration policies, then let them do what they're going to do. It doesn't worry me. Now, the really big story when we get back, we have a lot coming up today. We will also, Mick Mulvaney, the director of OMB, is going to join us today. The chairman of the House Freedom Caucus, Mark Meadows, is here today. Jonathan Gillum, Dan Bongino today, and much more. 800-94-1-SEAN is our toll-free telephone number this Friday. All right, as we roll along, don't worry about the government shutdown. As a matter of fact, and we'll talk to Mick Mulvaney, the OMB director, later. He told reporters that if Chuck Schumer shuts down the government, the Trump administration does have contingency plans that will cushion the impact on the American people. At least they care enough to do that, knowing that, you know, shut down Chuck is going to do everything he can do to play politics. And it's the opposite, by the way, of what the Obama administration tried to do when they were, you know, at this point in 2013. It's just the opposite of what they tried to do. Remember, quote, I've been through some of these before, Mulvaney said, the Schumer shutdown. I just want to let everybody know about the potential government shutdown. We do not want this. We do not want a shutdown. But if Schumer insists on it, he's in a position to force the American people, force this on the American people. But then he insisted the process will be a lot different under President Trump than Obama because Obama, quote, weaponized the shutdowns for political purposes. Trump is going to prevent that. And he continued, from an OMB perspective, because we're involved in managing a lapse or a shutdown, we want to make folks understand that it will look a lot different than it did under the previous administration. And he said the Obama administration weaponized the shutdown of 2013. What they did is not tell you that they did not encourage agencies to use carry forward funds that they were sitting on, nor did they encourage agencies to use transfer authority. And they could have made the 2013 shutdown much less impactful, but they chose to make it worse. And they did it for political purposes. So basically figure out here who really wants the government shutdown and who doesn't. I mean, Schumer's demanding that the party that does have power, that they be excluded from any immigration negotiations. That's not, shut down. Schumer's not going to win on that ever. So he can shut down the government and he can throw temper tantrum after temper tantrum. It's not going to work. And it's not the worst thing at all. And by the way, the last two government shutdowns did not hurt the GOP. Now, because the media would have you believe it's the Republicans' fault. They'll show you polls that the Republicans are getting blamed for it. Remember in 2013, Ted Cruz filibustered the funding of Obamacare. Good for him. He was the only one. At the time, his fellow GOPers were saying, you're going to lose 2014 for us. Anyway, the press filled with predictions it would impact the midterms. It did not. But if the 2013 shutdown played any role in the 2014 vote, well, I think that would actually work pretty well for the Republicans, although the best thing they could do for 2018 is simple. Build the wall, fully fund the wall, and repeal and replace Obamacare. In other words, just keep your word and you'll get reelected. All right, glad you're with us, and it's 25 now till the top of the hour. We have a lot going on today. Let me break a lot of this down for you. By the way, the humorous part of the day is this just broke. James Comey is going to be teaching a course on ethical leadership at William and Mary. Maybe one of those parents paying $60,000 or so a year so your kid can be indoctrinated at some left-wing institution. Anyway, the former FBI director is joining the faculty of his alma mater, the College of William and Mary, plans to teach a course on ethical leadership at the school's Washington Center starting in the fall. And he'll have his MSNBC contributorship. He'll be on the Dr. Liberal Joe morning show with Dr. Mika Brzezinski. Can't wait for that day. That's going to... Seriously? I think not only does he fancy himself a rock star, I just get the impression that in the quiet moments at night, when it's just the two of them, a glass of wine, the fire is roaring, and they're just talking. I think they think he's going to be president, and she'll be the first lady. And I think the people, the sycophants around them, are telling them that. That'll be interesting to watch. Okay, let me walk through this because this is important. It's more important than this phony government shutdown, but I know that the information crisis in this country is preventing people from ever getting to know the truth here. Number one, the president, and we played it yesterday, so I won't reiterate everything that he said. The economic statistics that the president is laying out are spectacular. Nothing short of a miracle turnaround in a very, very short period of time for the economy. I mean, just a few, 2.2 million jobs. Chrysler from Mexico to Michigan. Look at the investment that we're going to get from Apple, $350 billion. It's only the tip of the iceberg. Then you got all Ford and Chrysler and GM and plants being built now all over the country. And Carrier started it all. And then we have the end of burdensome regulation. And then we have the addition. America's really on a path now with the opening of ANWR, and the coal industry continued, and fracking now allowed more than ever. We're on the brink of becoming energy independent if we move quickly enough while we have the opportunity. That's going to create so many high-paying career jobs for people, and it's going to also wean us off the dependence of the lifeblood of our economy, energy, oil, and that means that we won't need these countries that hate our guts and hold us hostage at times. You got that reform, the burdensome regulation reform. It's basically we put up a sign, we're open for business again. Build your business here. And we see companies, even with CEOs like the CEO of Apple that hates President Trump, they're ecstatic that this environment has now changed. We have unemployment at an 18-year low demographically. Applications for unemployment 45-year low. Black unemployment in America, the lowest ever recorded. Female unemployment, the lowest in 17 years. Hispanic unemployment, the lowest ever recorded. And again, it's only the tip of the iceberg. And you heard that from the president yesterday. So the Democrats, they don't stand for anything. They don't really want the DACA deal done because they want to run on it. Now they want to shut down the government. All they've discussed for a year is Russia. He's going to start a nuclear war. Oh, and he's crazy until he took his cognitive test with his doctor, and then they smeared the doctor. I mean, it just is never ending. And if they're not doing that, they're attacking the First Lady, Ivanka Trump, Jared Kushner, Paul Manafort, Reince Priebus, Steve Bannon, and the president himself any day they can. That's your Democratic Party. There's no solutions for the forgotten men and women in poverty, out of a job, on food stamps. They don't care. It's, a 7-year low of those people that are literally getting food stamps, not reported by your fake news networks. So yesterday, during the course of the program, it began the process. And let me back up a little bit here. Since March of last year, we have been telling you about FISA warrant abuses, and that had happened at Trump Tower. And we were telling you that. We broke the story with Sarah Carter and John Solomon. They've been doing phenomenal Pulitzer Prize winning, it should be, it won't happen, but Pulitzer Prize winning work. And literally have been unpeeling the layers of an onion for day after day as we've been following this. But we told you back in March, that in fact it's true, that they were spying on then candidate, then President-elect Donald Trump. But now, as we've been unpeeling the layers of this onion, it gets deeper and deeper. Now, finally, at the last minute, after subpoenas had been issued and time had passed, the House Intelligence Committee, and literally right up to the deadline, the Department of Justice has been asked to turn over these documents. And they finally turned them over. Earlier in that day, before they were turned over, Rod Rosenstein, and now we know why, he was begging Paul Ryan, please do not release this information. We now know that people absolutely will be fired. I have confirmed. I don't have all the details of everything that's in it. That's why I want them to release the memo today. But confirming what we have been telling you for a year, and for those of you that have been frustrated that we're only getting bits and pieces of the story and we're reporting on them, it has led us to where we are today. And we were digging and digging and digging and digging. And I'm as frustrated as you, impatient as many of you are. But now the people that have gone over there have told us it shocks the conscience and it's worse than anybody ever imagined. These classified DOJ documents. And now Congress is reviewing them, but none of them can talk about it. And it's showing extensive and widespread FISA abuse against the Trump campaign. It's more devious, more disturbing than anyone thought. A bigger abuse of power, far bigger than Watergate, third-rate break-in on a political opponent. That's nothing. That's when you think of what's happened here. It's a little complicated, but if you look at the Watergate comparison, you got a bunch of people who tried to cover up a break-in of their opponent in a presidential election year. All right, that's it. And what we now know is that the difference here is the powerful tools of intelligence were used by those in power because they wanted to influence a presidential election, and they thought they could get away with it. Now, it was done not only under false pretenses, but with the help of one candidate, Hillary Clinton, and her bought and paid for Russian propaganda dossier that was filled with Russian lies and Russian propaganda and salacious details that on the surface never made sense. The dossier was only corroborated, wasn't corroborated by Fusion GPS at all. And you'll hear talking points that'll say, well, wait a minute, it was the Washington Free Beacon. They first started the Fusion GPS. They hired them. Okay, yeah, but then they stopped. And it wasn't until Hillary Clinton started paying $12 million through her campaign, funneling it through a lawyer, the DNC that she controlled, funneling that money through a lawyer, that they hired Christopher Steele. And Christopher Steele was the guy that went ahead and got the phony Russian lies. And then Fusion GPS, we just learned yesterday, and it's a big detail, they wouldn't even deny that there was coordination with the Clinton campaign. The House Intel transcript shows that the Fusion GPS chief literally refused to deny that he coordinated the Trump dossier press leaks with the Clinton campaign. Imagine this. Just replace Hillary for Donald Trump. Donald Trump rigs a primary against 16 other Republicans. And the person that tells us was Reince Priebus. He was the head of the RNC. It was Donna Brazile that told us Hillary rigged a primary against Bernie. Bernie had no shot. And then James Comey, the head of the FBI, along with Peter Strzok. Peter Strzok is the tip of the spear in all of this, and his mistress girlfriend, Lisa Page. When you have Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, and Andrew McCabe is getting legal advice from Lisa Page. And then they had, and I'll get to this in a second, then they had the leaked text messages. We still have 9,500 more to go. But this is the highest ranks of the Justice Department and the FBI. And Peter Strzok is at the heart of it, and his mistress also at the heart of it. We're learning that beyond any shadow of a doubt, the special counsel, Robert Mueller, and his band of Democratic witch hunters should never have been appointed. They must be disbanded immediately. Because what Strzok and Page, it now makes sense. Because, we see their text messages to each other, and what do we find? They call Trump an idiot, a lonesome human being. F Trump. Then I think the most important part is when Strzok writes Page, I want to believe the path that you threw out for consideration in Andy's office. We believe that to be Andrew McCabe, because she was giving him legal advice, that there's no way he gets elected, that he is Trump. But I'm afraid we can't take that risk. It's like an insurance policy. In the unlikely event you die before you're 40. The time frame is critical, because the same time Strzok and Page are talking about the insurance policy is the exact same time that Obama officials are going to a FISA court to get a warrant on Carter Page. Now, follow me here. Carter Page was a pretext to spy on the Trump campaign. And now we have the evidence that that was their motivation. Everyone seems to forget Lisa Page is the key legal counselor for McCabe. Now it all fits. And the first time they tried to get the FISA warrant, we're told, against Carter Page, it was denied. So what fixed it? It was the dossier that fixed it. Now follow me here. Imagine Donald Trump rigged a primary election. He gets away with that? Hillary got away with that. Then Hillary Clinton hires Fusion GPS, funneling the money that she has in the campaign and of course, through the DNC. They hire the MI6 agent that is known for dealing with Russians. They get Russian lies and propaganda. Fusion GPS hates Donald Trump. They go ahead and they are involved in getting this to the press. Not corroborated. They never even tried to check the sources of it. So then they go back with the dossier after they rigged the primary. James Comey, Peter Strzok literally exonerate Hillary before they investigate her. We know she committed felonies on the email server scandal. They exonerate her so she can stay in the race. She can still run. It would have been a disaster for the Democrats if they had to take her out if she got indicted like she should have been. And then that dossier that she paid for is then used before a FISA court, and they start spying on the Trump administration or an opposing candidate, an opposition party in an election year, and then a president-elect after that. Imagine if Trump did all of that. They were successful because the new dossier put it over the top and got them the FISA warrant. And then they used it or abused it. It was gotten under false pretenses by a political party paying for lies from Russia, of all places. You can't make this stuff up. And they tried to tell us that, well, it got started because of George Papadopoulos running his mouth at a nightclub talking to an Australian diplomat who told a guy in Britain who told the FBI. Hearsay is not four-way hearsay. Anyway, so they get the Carter Page warrant on him. And it's important because the Obama officials, they should have known the dossier on its face was a lie, full of salacious Russian lies. And Fusion GPS never even verified it was in the dossier. And then we learned last night that Fusion GPS, they're not denying that they worked with the Clinton campaign to leak this garbage. And remember, the MI6 agent, Christopher Steele, what is he skilled at? Deception. And people that looked at that information yesterday are telling me that this is the single biggest abuse scandal in the history of this country. Bigger than Watergate because they're using government intelligence gathering. They're using a phony propaganda document from a political candidate to spy on an opposition candidate. And they're shredding the Constitution in the process, especially unreasonable search and seizure. Now, the point here is we can stop all of this. We, the people, have a right to know. They can release Congress. Republicans don't need any Democratic help. They can release the memo. And all they have to do, it's very simple, is the Intel Committee needs to vote. It'll be a party line vote. They didn't even want Congress, the Democrats, to see this. It'll be a party line. Then they'll send it to the White House. Any objections? No. Then they'll vote on it and then let the people decide. If you want to call your congressman or woman, here's the number. It's 202-224-3121. Let me put it this way. If you look at the players, I hope Andrew McCabe has a good lawyer. I don't think he's going to make his March of retirement. I don't think James Comey, I think he better stop thinking about teaching that class because he's in trouble. Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, I can't wait for the other 9,600 pages. Rod Rosenstein, what did he know and when did he know it? And did he reauthorize it? Those are questions I want answered because he should be replaced. And the entire Mueller, witch hunt apparatus of Democrats, they need to be disbanded and fired and investigated if we're going to have equal justice under the law. One last thing. We were right the entire time. Everybody else in the media was wrong. Can't tell you how many people called me yesterday and said, wow, you really were. And by the way, it's not me. It's for our country. But Sarah Carter and people like John Solomon and Victoria Tunsing and Tom Fenton and Greg Jarrett, I can't even remember, Jay Sekulow. There's been a few of us. The rest of the media has ignored the biggest story in their lifetime because of their bias. Quick break, right back. All right, glad you're with us. Sean Hannity Show, Hour 2 on this Friday, 800-941-SEAN if you want to be a part of the program. Breaking news, by the way, now the president is decided. NBC News broadcasting the Super Bowl from Minneapolis. Variety reports Trump does not intend to accept the network's invitation to appear with them before the kickoff. Bill O'Reilly did it last year with Barack Obama and I guess Gayle King the year before. And it began during George W. Bush's presidency, made into an annual tradition by Obama. But just Mika and Joe alone, Liberal Joe, Dr. Liberal Joe and Dr. Brzezinski, Mika. That's reason enough. NBC has been abusively insulting, rude, condescending, and lying constantly. I don't blame the president. If he was ever going to do it with anybody at NBC, there's only one person I'd recommend, Al Michaels. No one's going to listen to me anyway. By the way, Edward Snowden has spoken. Now, says the FISA scandal means Trump should veto the spy program. Oh, there's going to be a major change in the way things are done. So what I said to you as we were closing out the last hour is I want to put a highlight on this. Sarah Carter and John Solomon and Greg Jarrett and Victoria Tunsing. And by the way, Victoria, you're going to hear a lot more from her in the coming year and this year. Tom Fitton, Sebastian Gorka, and myself, and a couple of others. And who am I missing off the top of my head, Linda? I'm sorry, Lisa. I'm kidding. Sidney Powell, another good answer. I just can't remember. What's that? I said Tom Fitton. If you were listening to the radio program, you would have known that.
I blame Lisa for everything.
All right. I don't want to stay on this road anymore. Yes, Linda, thank you. But they have done incredible work here. As I was told by many people that can't talk about it, the work we've been doing and what I keep saying, we're unpeeling the layer of an onion, has now been vindicated. And the rest of the media has been so god-awfully, abusively wrong. They've missed the biggest story in their lifetime. Now, they could get on board now. It's a little late, and I'm sure they're not going to do the good job. 3 of the people are with me now. Sarah Carter, Fox News investigative journalist. Sebastian Gorka, also with Fox News. And Greg Jarrett are with us, the 3 of you. And Sarah, I think it was back in March when you and John Solomon broke the story that, yeah, Trump Tower had been surveilled and there was a FISA warrant and maybe another warrant, and the mainstream media ignored it and made fun of the president when he talked about it.
Yes. I mean, there was so much contradictory evidence to what the mainstream media was actually putting out there. And it was surprising, I think, to me as a journalist, that people didn't want to go down this road, that they just didn't want to see it, despite the mounting evidence, the warrantless surveillance, the documents from the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court that showed that the courts chided the Obama administration for extreme abuses. And even when reporters did write about it, it would be buried like page 4 in the newspaper, and nobody knew about it. So it was really strange how this all played out. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that for the election, for a lot of journalists that had put all their eggs in one basket, the Hillary Clinton basket, and they were so angry with the election, the fair and democratic election of President Trump, that they weren't willing to go down that road. They wanted to believe that there was something nefarious about this, like how could the country vote for this man? And it was that elitist attitude that really betrayed them and betrayed their duty as journalists to actually investigate what was real.
The difference between this and Watergate, this is so much bigger. To use the Watergate was nursery school compared to this. And the big difference is it's not a third-rate burglary to get information on in a presidential election year against an opponent, because that's what it was, and the cover-up thereafter. And the media universally was disgusted and outraged. But we have weaponized the powerful tools of intelligence. We have allowed one candidate to purchase Russian lies, propaganda, salacious lies, misinformation. This candidate rigged a primary. This candidate had an FBI director and others in the FBI protect her after known felonies were committed so she could keep running. She tried to rig the general election with this phony information. We learned in the details that were released from the congressional testimony, the House Intel Committee, that Fusion GPS leader, Glenn Simpson, in fact, he did not deny that he had shared and leaked information to the press on behalf of coordinating with the Clinton campaign. But then they used that very same bought and paid for dossier with Russian lies to get a FISA warrant so they could spy on an opposition candidate and on an incoming president, a president-elect. Sarah, what am I missing here?
You're not missing much. Think about this, Sean. It was what U.S. intelligence, former U.S. intelligence, very high-level U.S. intelligence officials were screaming to the hilltops about. And all of the stories that we've published for the past year, people that have gone as whistleblowers, and remember Who's Spying on Who, was a story that I recently published where they had gone to the congressional members and said, we need to talk to you because we have an idea what's going on here. They were using the FISA Section 702 basically as a back door to spy on Americans. And this is how they're doing it, they said. Let me lay this out for you. Remember, a lot of this is classified, so they could only talk to people with the clearances that were available to them that they could talk to. So they were using this. And you have to ask these questions. Why hasn't anybody pursued the 300 unmaskings done by Samantha Powers, the former UN ambassador?
Oh, why
isn't there an investigation into why, Susan Rice was conducting these unmaskings? And remember how uncomfortable CIA Director John Brennan was when he was questioned by Trey Gowdy before we even knew about Samantha Power publicly, when he said, do you know of any ambassador that has conducted unmaskings? And at that point in time, he looked over at Trey Gowdy. I mean, I think it was such a poignant moment. He cracked his neck to the side and say, I think I may, know, I'm not quite sure about that. It does ring a bell.
Let me bring in Greg Jarrett. Greg, you have done such a great job on the legal side of all of this. Let's talk about how severe this is legally.
At least 5 people who worked in the top echelon of the FBI were directly involved in the decision to absolve Clinton and target Trump. There was an abundance of evidence that Clinton committed crimes and a paucity of evidence that Trump colluded with Russia. Yet the path to the presidency was cleared for one, and the road to the White House was muddied for the other. And the only reasonable explanation, Sean, for this was political bias on the part of those at the FBI, to some extent the Department of Justice. They were vested with immense power. They attempted to corrupt the electoral process, subvert justice, and seek to undermine democracy in a presidential election. You're absolutely correct. This is far more egregious and serious and tragic than Watergate.
All right, let's look at it from your perspective. You were inside the White House throughout a lot of this, Sebastian Gorka, and I've got to imagine now that we are learning of these abuses, and we've had no evidence of Trump-Russia collusion. I would argue that, number one, Rod Rosenstein, I want to know if he reauthorized this. He himself has a lot of questions coming his way, and I think he needs to be removed. And I think I think Robert Mueller's, merry band of Democratic donors and witch hunters need to be disbanded and go away tomorrow or today even.
Sean, first, you need to be commended, Sarah, John, Greg, because you didn't give up. The left says they're the resistance and that they persist. Well, no, you persisted, and finally the truth is getting out. But this truth needs to be put in historic and national context. Listen to the statements just in the last 24 hours from Congressman Jordan, Gates. Listen to the statements that have been made by the people who have read the intelligence memorandum. They said that if any American reads these 4 pages, they will be shocked and horrified. We have never had, these are not hysterical politicians. These are serious men. They are speaking in language we have not heard since the House Un-American Committee, since the days, this goes back to the worst scandals of American history. This isn't just a bungled burglary. This isn't one man doing something wrong. This is systematic political targeting by federal law enforcement and intelligence assets at the highest levels of the Obama administration. I've been told that this is the tip of the iceberg. What the memo talks about is the tip of the iceberg and will go to the cabinet level of the Obama administration.
I'm told this is 30%, Sarah, and the heart of this, now we understand what Peter Strzok meant when he texted his mistress, well, I want to believe the path you threw out for consideration in Andy's office. Remember, she's Andy McCabe's, top legal advisor, that there's no way he gets elected. But I'm afraid we can't take that risk. It's an insurance policy. In the unlikely event you die before you're 40. I guess we now know what the insurance policy was.
It appears that we're getting to see part of that insurance policy, right? We're hearing little snippets of what's coming out of this classified memo. At least the alarm bells are ringing all over the place, and members of Congress who've seen it. Now, I've been told today nearly 130 members have actually seen this 4-page report memorandum. Only the Democrats on the HPSC committee have actually seen it. No other Democrats have come in to see it. Surprising, since they seem to want to be so transparent. You would think that they would want to look at this report, and now we're waiting for it to be made public. But just going back to what Seb was saying earlier, I was told by somebody, a government official, very senior government official, that this memorandum, if there were 10 bullets, this is only one of 10, because the rest of the information, the classified information, is so damaging and so damning to them, to the people that are involved, that it's going to rock Washington. That's really concerning to me, because we think, like, well, is this it? What have they seen that we haven't seen, and how bad was it that in the United States of America we have officials like Seb and Greg, both were stating, who are in positions of power that we trust, that we're weaponizing, it appears, that we're weaponizing the intelligence community for a political opponent.
And abusing the ability to get warrants with paid-for opposition lies from Russia, of all places. Stay right there. More with Sarah Carter, more with Greg Jarrett. I'm not going to call you Seb. I didn't know we called you Seb, Sebastian. Dr. Sebastian Gorka. It's likely the biggest corruption scandal in our lifetime. We continue. People that have worked so hard on this issue, Sarah Carter and Greg Jarrett and Sebastian Gorka. Greg Jarrett, looking at this from a legal standpoint, Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, Rod Rosenstein, James Comey. Where do they stand legally in all of this? And Bruce Orr.
Well, they certainly committed abuses of power. And if they lied about their conduct, they can be prosecuted. I wish there was a straight-out statute.
What about Comey and Strzok fixing the investigation on Hillary Clinton? Isn't that obstruction?
Well, Comey's interesting, and I'm glad you brought it up. He took with him 7 presidential memos. Those are not his. They were made during the course and scope of his work as FBI director. He's not allowed to take them home. He's not allowed to convert them to his own use and leak them to others. That's theft of government documents. He can and should be prosecuted for that. And it also looks as though, the evidence continues to mount, that he obstructed justice in the Hillary Clinton case. He contorted the law and twisted the facts so that she was exonerated when, in fact, he initially found in his statement that she committed crimes. And the language was redlined out and changed. It looks as though it was done for a political reason. That's obstruction.
It's unbelievable. Sebastian.
It truly is. And the fact is, a handful of individuals have besmirched the reputation of literally thousands of agents and law enforcement officers in the FBI and the Department of Justice. And it may take those organizations years, if not decades, to claw back their good name, thanks to the obstruction of justice, the theft, and the felonious activities of a handful of very, very highly placed individuals.
Yeah, I'm almost out of time. Sarah, is this any short of really trying to really fix a presidential election and using the tools of intelligence and using lies paid for by the opposition? Is it also about undoing a duly elected president or undoing an election?
According to the people that have seen the memo and all the sources that I've spoken with over the past year, it would seem that that was the intention. And I can tell you, Sean, from people that have talked to people within the intelligence community that are more aware of what was going on during that time, there was a feeling among some people within the FBI, I think we know who we're talking about, and others within the intelligence community and the administration that were supporters of Hillary Clinton, that they believed ideologically that they felt that they had to do this.
I got to leave it here. We'll have more on TV tonight with all of you. Unbelievable work. Take a bow, but we're only at 10% of what's coming. Straight ahead.
So you could actually have the consequences of default a day or two before it actually occurs. This is playing with fire, and we are happy to negotiate. But we want to negotiate without a gun to our head. Speaker Boehner comes in and he says basically, it's sort of like this. Someone goes into your house, takes your wife and children hostage, and then says, let's negotiate over the price of your house. We could do the same thing on immigration. We believe strongly in immigration reform. We could say we're shutting down the government. We're not going to raise the debt ceiling until you pass immigration reform. It would be governmental chaos.
Let's be really clear about this. The Republicans put a legislation on the floor that was intended to shut down government. For them, that's a victory because they're anti-government ideologues who dominate the Republican Party.
They wanted to defund Obamacare.
No, they want to shut down government. The effect of putting the Affordable Care Act on the bill is to shut down government. They know that. They know that has no prospect of prevailing. I think it's really important to note that there are lots of excuses that they use, but for many of them, I call them legislative arsonists. They're there to burn down what we should be building up in terms of investments in education and scientific research and all that it is that make our country great and competitive. I don't paint them all with the same brush, and I certainly don't paint the speaker with that brush, but enough of them in their caucus to shut down government. That would be a victory.
Okay, Chuck Schumer, and of course the doom and gloom talk continues. Nancy Pelosi actually saying House Republicans who want a government shutdown are legislative arsonists. Okay, now this is going to be different. The last shutdown, 95, 96, 21 days. And as a result, we ended up getting a president impeached over that part. All essential government services do continue. These scare tactics never work. Basically, what the Democrats have tried to play here is that they want to hold Congress and the president hostage. They want DACA. They want chain migration. They want everything that they want, or they're going to shut it down. And if you hear anything else from the press, they're just lying to you. Congressman Mark Meadows, he is the chairman of the Freedom Caucus, joins us now to discuss this and other things. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Sean. Great to be back with you, and thanks for highlighting all of this and the truth, because you do hold us accountable here on Capitol Hill.
I try, sir, but in reality, what, you had a million federal employees sent home. They always end up getting back pay. Isn't that correct?
That's correct. They've never gone without their back pay, and so in some shutdown scenarios, it's like they get a paid vacation instead of all the doom and gloom that you hear from Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. But perhaps under this president, it'll be different.
Yeah. Well, I think just the power of his Twitter account every day is going to bring down the force of the bully pulpit of the presidency, and I think it will be quite effective in the end. So what is really happening? Because the way the press is reporting this is that the Republicans are shutting it down when nothing could be further from the truth. You passed this in the House yesterday.
We did, and let me tell you the reason why we passed it in the House is the president got involved personally, talked about our military and trying to make sure they're not held hostage. He doesn't want to shut down. He has told me that personally several times, and yet at the same time, he's not going to be held hostage by Chuck Schumer trying to use the federal government as a leverage point to get a liberal immigration bill. And so we've got a tough negotiator in chief in the White House, and yet at the same time, we passed it out of the House. It's sitting in the Senate. It's up to Chuck Schumer and 9 of his colleagues to figure out whether they want to shut the government down or not.
I mean, that's the point. I mean, the people in the media that have actually been reporting, well, Republicans, they control the Senate. I'm like, have you never heard of cloture? Have you, do you not know at all how the Senate progresses and works?
Well, you're exactly right. Mick Mulvaney, Director Mulvaney, actually went on to suggest when he was asked by Jim Acosta from CNN, well, you control everything. How can you blame it on the Democrats? And Mick actually came back at him and says, Jim, you know better than that. Well, it takes 60 votes. It's Chuck Schumer and 9 of his colleagues that have to come along and support it. And so to suggest that we can just, with the waving of a wand, keep the government open is just not accurate.
All right, let's go to the biggest issue of the day. I have been told by my sources that the memo that was finally released that talks about massive Pfizer surveillance abuses and many of the issues that we have been discussing a long time on this program, how a sitting president has been, and then opposition candidate was surveilled, a FISA warrant obtained in substantial part, I am told, by a dossier that was bought and paid for by Hillary Clinton and corroborated only by one of her friends and not by Fusion GPS, the group they paid to go out and hire Christopher Steele, who got Russians to lie. And by the way, on the surface of all the allegations, one should have been suspicious anyway. And it gets worse than that. Then they got the FISA warrant. They were spying on an opposition candidate and then spying on a president-elect in the case of Donald Trump. You had an opportunity yesterday for the first time to go over and read some of this material. Were you one of the people that went over?
Well, I did go over, and I can tell you this, Sean, you have been at the forefront of reporting things on this particular issue for many, many weeks. When no one else would cover it, you were willing to put forth a narrative that is out there each and every day to make sure that truth is conveyed to your listeners and to your viewers.
And to our country. The truth matters. The rule of law matters.
You want the truth out there, even, if it's not going to be supportive of the president, you want to make sure that it's transparent. I did go yesterday, unfortunately, and you get into a catch-22. When you go in to look at a classified document, even things that you and I were talking about prior to me going in, I can't talk about now, because now I know whether they're true or not. And so by that, I can't confirm or deny that. Because
well, let me ask you this. Can I ask you this way? I mean, you watch my show every night, and we first reported on a warrant and a FISA warrant back in, I believe it was March when we first broke that story. And we've been asking all these questions, and we've been unpeeling layer after layer after layer of an onion. Is there anything you've ever heard me say on TV that's wrong or not true?
Well, I can say this. I am going to continue to watch your programs and listen to you, because whatever sources that you continue to hit apparently are well informed. And I can't confirm or deny certain aspects of your show, because now I know which parts are true and which parts are not, and it would violate something that I've signed. But I can tell you what I saw.
Is there anything that is not true that you've heard?
Again, it would violate.
You can't confirm either it's true or not true. In other words, you're not saying that there's something I said.
I'm going to continue to watch your show, and generally speaking, when I do that, I don't like fake news, and so. But I will say this: what I saw and read, all Americans, your listeners, your viewers, need to read the memo, because when they do, it will illuminate a certain situation that I think most Americans would find appalling. I found it shocking that it could actually be happening. I don't want to oversell anything. I'm very concerned based on what I read in a classified setting that there needs to be more light that comes to fruition on this particular issue.
I started the program, Congressman Meadows, giving out the phone number. And I've heard from your office that your phones have been ringing quite a bit, 202-224-3121, with a simple message. And I ask people to be polite. Release the memo. The American people, based on everything that I've been able to glean from individuals, is that we have been over the target, and we've been over the target from day one, and that it's even worse than I imagined. And people are going to be fired as a result of this. People we have discussed at length, that would be Bruce Orr and people like Peter Strzok. There will be people investigated, and there probably will be criminal charges for some of them, in my opinion. And Lisa Page, Rod Rosenstein, and James Comey have a lot of explaining to do. McCabe has a lot of explaining to do. And I would expect that there is going to be an earthquake as a result of this memo, based on my own reporting. Here's my question. Imagine if Donald Trump was proven by his own chairman of the RNC to have rigged an election in a primary, if he rigged it against all the other 16 guys he ran against in the primary, and then Donald Trump had an FBI agent and an FBI director exonerate him before they investigated him. In the case, this would be James Comey, and Peter Strzok writing an exoneration before the investigation months later. And imagine if Donald Trump paid for a dossier full of lies, Russian propaganda, salacious details about Hillary, and that paid-for dossier of Donald Trump was used to rig a general election and manipulate the American people with Russian propaganda. And then you got to spy. It became the predicate, the foundation for a warrant to spy on Hillary, candidate, and then, if she won, president-elect. How would the country react to that?
Well, they would react with shock and disbelief, and certainly would not approve of that. And those kinds of accusations are exactly why we need to be transparent with America and let them see what has happened, because in all of that, once the facts come out, I think there will be a real demand for things to change.
Got to take a quick break. He is the chairman of the Freedom Caucus. Mark Meadows is with us. All right, as we continue with the chairman of the Freedom Caucus, Mark Meadows. You know, we had a big controversy and a big scandal in this country that led to the resignation of a president, and that was Richard Nixon. And it was about a third-rate burglary and about a cover-up. The burglary was to get information on a presidential opponent.